floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the senators for having me here today. It's an honor and privilege to speak to my private member's bill, C-275, to amend the Health of Animals Act. The impetus of this bill was really focused on an incident that happened in my riding in 2019 and has subsequently happened in many other parts of the country in years since then. So we really wanted to take a look at a way to try to address what was becoming a more considerable issue, and certainly an issue that I felt had some dire consequences that maybe a lot of people didn't understand when they were taking these activities, what the potential consequences could be. And what we try to do with this legislation is form a bill that would make it an offense to enter without lawful authority or excuse a place in which animals are kept, if doing so could result in the animals being exposed to a disease or toxic substance capable of affecting or contaminating those animals. It also proposes to increase the fines that are in place through the Health of Animals Acts to also discourage groups that are organizing those types of activities. And I really feel in a need to make this point perfectly clear and stress this, that this is not an ag-gag law. This does not in any way stop people in the public from protesting on public property. What this does is put a line in the sand where you cannot cross into private property where there are very strict biosecurity protocols in place. By all means, you are more than welcome to protest on public property, but you cannot go onto private property without understanding the biosecurity protocols. This bill also does not ban whistleblowers in any way. In fact, as many of you would know, that farmers and their employees are morally and legally obligated to report any misappropriation or any activities that are putting the health of their animals and their livestock at risk. So there's in no way does this bill stop whistleblowers from taking steps to ensure that the health of animals is always a priority. There have been a number of examples over the last several years of this unlawful behavior, and certainly during debate in the House where members of every party spoke and discussed issues that have happened in their riding or close to their riding that have impacted their farmers. And as I said, this really became important to me as a result of an incident in Fort Macleod, Alberta, where the Shedder family has a turkey farm, a free-range turkey farm, as a matter of fact. They aren't in enclosures or in cages, as some might see in other parts of the world. But he woke up, he phoned me in the morning, and he said, I've got 40 protesters in one of my barns trying to take my turkeys. And if you could hear the emotion and the stress in Mark's voice, you could see that he was extremely upset, extremely distraught, didn't know what to do. Eventually, and ironically, it wasn't Mark that phoned the RCMP, it was the protesters themselves. They phoned the police. They wanted to make sure that they were safe. But what the real impetus of this is these same protesters were on a hog farm in Abbotsford, BC the week before. They were not following biosecurity protocols. They could have easily been carrying a disease from one farm to another. And we do have a number of incidences in Canada as well as a recent one in the United States. So when opponents of this bill will say, well, there's no proof that they are spreading diseases, well, that sort of misses the point of this, but B, that's completely incorrect. We have an incident in Quebec where a rotavirus appeared for the first time in 40 years, another one in Ontario and a mink farm, but most recently we had two incidences in the United States where the California government has now said that it looks like protesters on two farms spread avian flu, and it resulted in the death of 250,000 birds. So we do know that this is happening, and we want to make sure that we are taking steps to make sure that this does not happen here in Canada. We see African swine fever, avian flu, foot and mouth disease, certainly what's happening now with H5N1 in dairy cattle. We have to take every step that we possibly can to ensure that our livestock and our food supply and our food security is protected. And this is just one tool for us to ensure that we are taking those appropriate steps to ensure that our food supply and food chain is protected. And I believe that the amending of the Health of Animals Act was our best and most efficient way of doing that. And just finally, since we did table this bill, a few provinces have followed through with something similar, but not all of them. So I feel it's important that we have a national focus on this, a national legislation that will address this, and that's what we're hoping to achieve with Bill C-275. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to your questions.